What's up, guys? It's me, LSP Spectrar, here in another video in Dwarf Fortress, continuing our kind of beginner's tutorial series that I'm going on. And today I'm going to be talking about the side menu over here to the right. You've started your game in the last tutorial, and you've gotten in, and it's confusing as heck. There's no real tutorial in-game about all of the buttons and how to maneuver around in the game. So I'm going to show you. Yes, this is a previous setup world, but it's more of so I can demonstrate what's going on. So you probably won't have all of this in the game right now. Now I'm going to go through each thing in the menu to the side here. I'm going to try my best not to go into too much detail about each one, because I will be doing that in future videos, and that way this video is not too long. Also remember that this game has thousands of different ways to do certain things, and so everything I say in these tutorials is very much so the way I do things. So feel free to take that liberty and do it the way you want, and don't take this as 100% fact. But today's a little more concrete and straightforward with the menus on the side. So let's get off and get started. First off, up here is A, View Announcements. When you hit A, you come over here and you can see things that have happened in your fortress. When something happens, generally it will appear up here in the menus. The thing at the very bottom of the menu, and you can see the little green arrow up here, sorry, will show you which one you have currently selected, but the one at the very bottom is the one that has happened the most recently. So most recently, this name that I'm not going to attempt to pronounce has become Guinea Hen. There you go. This guy has gotten melancholy, and this guy also went insane. Merchants have arrived. So you can see what has happened. You can also hit zoom to the location to kind of see where it's happened. But after it's been a while since something's happened, typically it's going to be a little harder to figure out exactly what happened to that person if they've moved on or whatever, but you can typically go exactly where it happened. You can also scroll up to go to what has happened further in the past. You can see my green arrow going, and you can also go to the oldest message by going all the way to down, and you can see what the oldest message that is still being recorded. So that's the View Announcements. Next is B for Building. This is very important. This is where you will obviously build things. So you can set up things that you've already built. Now, to maneuver this, you use your arrow to maneuver around this map, but typically a lot in these side menus, you'll use plus and minus to go up and down in the menu system. Now, you can be, obviously most of the stuff here is for stuff that has already been built, like beds, chairs, seats, because you need to build those first. But the one that you'll see you'll probably be using the most at the beginning here is Workshops, which is all the way down here, which has a hotkey W. You can see all the hotkeys there on the right. So you go in here and you'll see all the different workshops you can make. You may also be using a lot of the wall, floor, stairs, and track menu, where you can build walls, obviously. Like it says, you can build walls, floors, and all that stuff. So those are some important things in the build menu. Next is Civilizations World Info. This one you probably won't use very much, but this tells you information about all the different civilizations that are in your world. Things can happen to them. You may learn more information about them. They may be destroyed. Things like that. So this is where you come to find all that stuff. Next is Designations. This is also a very important one. This is where you'll set up how you mine and everything. Now this one's a little bit different. You don't maneuver this one with the plus and minus. I'm hitting plus and minus right now, and nothing is happening. You select it with a hotkey. So D for mine, U for upstairs, I for downstairs, and so you select the one you want, and you can set it up. You hit D to set up your mining. Just quickly, because this is very important at the beginning, you'll hit Enter, and you'll select what you need to have mined. You can also remove by hitting X and doing the exact same way, removing the designation. And there's lots of different designations. We may go further into this in another tutorial. Next is Units List. This is very important. This is where you can see all your citizens that you currently have. Now, at your beginning, you probably only have about 5 or 6 citizens. I can't remember the exact number for some reason off the top of my head. I currently have 98, so I have lots. And this is where you can see what they're doing currently in a very limited fashion. But you can see what they're doing currently, their current occupation, like engraver, ranger, different things like that. As you use your side arrows, you can go over and check out what livestock you have, what other animals are in the world. This can be very useful to figure out what might be dangerous out there that is currently on your map, like a raven, a reacher. You can hit V, View Unit, to view that unit and see what it is. A lot of times it's a description, so this is a small for birding blackbird, and you can see everything about it. It goes into a lot of fun detail. And the last menu, Dead and Missing, this is where you can obviously see who's missing and who's dead. I have a few dead dwarves. Rip, rest in peace. And so that's what this menu does. Very useful. You'll use it a lot. Next is M for Military. This is important. This can get very complicated, so I'm not going to really go into any detail about it at all in this video. In a future video, I will. But this is how you manage your military. Next is capital N for points, routes, and notes. Now, I can't say I've dove in a lot into this, but I do know the general gist, and I'm hoping to understand it more so I can explain it to you guys. This is essentially where you set up routes for your dwarves to make things more efficient. So if you want someone moving something from one location to another, but you want them to take a specific route to get there so that it's either more safe or a little more efficient, this is how you'd set it up. And in conjunction with that, you also have H hauling, which is on the other side, all the way over here, where you'll assign what's being hauled on certain routes. So they kind of go hand in hand. Next is make burrow. This is something you probably won't touch too much at the beginning, but a burrow is essentially a designated area that the dwarves have to stay in, and you can assign certain dwarves to the burrow. So let's say your fortress is under siege and you want all your dwarves in a certain area so that they're safe. You'll set up the burrow and assign the dwarves to that burrow and activate that burrow so that all the dwarves go there. That kind of a thing. Again, future video. Next is P for stockpiles. As you can see up here, where my mouse is, I have all these different items stuck in these stockpiles. I've got like a kind of like an ore mineral stockpile. I got food stockpile. I've got like a supply stockpile. This is how you'll set it up. So you'll hit P, and then you can select what needs to go on there. You can customize it even after it's set down, and you basically choose what you want to set up, and you will make your stockpile. It's the same thing where you select it, you hit enter, you choose an area, hit enter again, and it's designated. Next, and a little bit in conjunction with that, is Q for, what does it say exactly? Set buildings, tasks, and preferences. This is how you'll manage your buildings. So you can see my yellow X here in the middle of the screen, and I'm over this jewelry shop, and jeweler's workshop, and I can set tasks. I can hit A for new tasks and tell them to do something at this workshop. You can also come up to things like your stockpiles, and you can change the settings about them and tweak them. So this is basically how you'll manage things on your map. And as you get close to something, it will auto-select the nearest thing, so you don't have to go right over it, but I just typically do just so you can be very specific about what you're changing. And it will flash, as you can see on the screen when you have it selected. Next is capital R. This is how you're going to view your rooms that you have. Now, in the future, you may not have seen it yet, depending on how far in this game you've gotten, but you will eventually have offices for different nobility and different things. So I have there's dining rooms, you got the graves, zones, beds, and this is kind of how you'll manage. This is a way to manage them and do different things with the buildings. Next, or rooms, I should say. Sorry. Next is view items in buildings. This could be useful if just to see what your dwarves are doing. Where's my X? There it is. So, right now in this fishery, it is made of quartzite, and they're currently working with a raw brook lamprey. So you can tell exactly what a dwarf is doing. Sometimes a dwarf will take over a workshop, and you want to know what the heck they're using inside the workshop, or you want to make sure a workshop is doing what you're telling it to. Like, you want to make sure that the jeweler is actually doing some rough clear Xyrons right now, or class, or whatever. So you can see exactly what the workshop currently has in their hands working with, and this can be useful just for understanding what your dwarves are doing, because they are very mischievous and typically don't do exactly what you want sometimes. Next is view units, V. This is, V. You hit view unit and you get your cursor, and as you can see, as you move around, it selects the next closest unit. So you can go up to a unit like this Fisher Dwarf, and you can see that they are a Novus Fish Dissector. You can basically see information about them. You can see combat information or regular information. Basically see exactly what that dwarf or creature is very good at. So if we find, here's a cat right here. So you can see this cat is a legendary climber. It can be useful information. You never know. That's essentially what this is used for, basically to understand the unit a little bit better. Next is locations and occupations. So for L, this is something you probably won't dabble into too much till further on into games. You can set up things like taverns, temples, and libraries that will influence people outside of your map and entice them to come to your area and hang out. So you maybe get some kind of legendary fighter that's out in the world currently to come to your tavern and hang out. And this can have many different benefits to your fortress and things like that. And this is where you'll kind of manage them all. Something that I really haven't even dabbled a whole lot in. Next is nobles and administrators. This is where you'll see what ones you have and assign certain dwarves to that position. Some of them are auto-selected by the dwarves themselves, like, for instance, the mayor. You don't choose the mayor, the people choose the mayor, which can or cannot really mess with your fortress. It can cause bad things. But essentially, this is where you manage it and see what they need to do their job. Next is Z for status. This is also a very important menu. This is where you'll get some general information about your fortress. As you can see up here, we can see the wealth of our fortress. As you can see, there's a lot of question marks. When you get a broker, you'll get a much, depending on how good they are, a much more accurate number. This is kind of like, well, I think we have about 300 meat. When it gets to a smaller number like a drinking being 2, which is very bad, it gets a little more accurate. But that's kind of how this works. Now, if you use the side arrows, as you can see up here in this menu, you can select different things like animals. You can come in here and train animals, send them to slaughter, be a little more specific about them. You can see what your kitchen has. You can see what's in your stocks, things like that. So that's what this menu's for. Next, tab. This changes what is on your screen. So if I hit tab, your little side menu goes away and you get nothing but map. Hit it again, you get this little side map, which I don't find too useful, but you might. Hit tab again, you get that and your side. Hit tab again, you just get a bigger menu of this, and you hit tab again, and you get back to the original screen that I prefer. I prefer this one. You may have a preference, to each their own. Question mark help I find completely useless, but you can dabble in it if you want, along with the semicolon. Yeah, semicolon. For movies, apparently you can record stuff. I have no interest in that, but you may want to mess around with it. If you want me to mess around in it and tell you guys about it, let me know, but other than that, I probably won't touch it. Next is capital L for artifacts. Now, your dwarves every once in a while will make something that's called an artifact and is worth a lot more, can bring happiness to your dwarves. Some dwarves become attached to them. I right now have a artifact of a figurine and earrings. So you get a name and stuff like that, and they can be really cool. Sometimes when you look into the details about them, they're actually really quite cool. Typically that happens when a dwarf takes over a workshop. They'll make an artifact of some kind. Anyways, let's move back up to the top. We've done this whole left side. Let's come up to here to reports. Now, reports is a refined announcements, and as far as I understand it, it's mostly physical, bad things, like fighting, for instance. So, yeah, if you just want to see when this kind of stuff happens, come to reports. But, yeah, that's essentially what this is. Next is O for set orders. This is a general set orders for all your dwarves. So you can come in here and you can say, all the dwarves make this refuse, or forbid this, or don't forbid this. I want all my dwarves harvesting, or hit H. I want only the farmers harvesting. That kind of thing. So at the beginning, you probably want all your dwarves kind of doing everything, and then as you go, you want to specify things so that way certain dwarves that are supposed to be doing a certain task don't end up getting caught up doing something else. So that's what you do here. Next is jobs list. This is a more refined unit list where you can kind of see what everybody's doing. You can see what you have queued up and what's being done. So you can see that I have right now my my fortress has all these seeds that need to be planted. Now, some of these are inactive, but these dwarves are currently doing them. So you can kind of see specifically what's being worked on at the current moment and what is not, which can be helpful. See who's doing what, and you can see where it's happening at, which is also nice. You can go to unit, view unit, all these stuff that you can see down here in the bottom. Very useful. Next is squads. This is where you'll manage your individual squads that you have in your military. Again, it can get a little complicated, but essentially this is how you assign your squad to attack something. Is a very basic use of this. Again, in conjunction with the military, won't go into much detail. Next is H, hauling. We kind of talked about that. It goes en route with points and routes and stuff. If you hit H right now, it'll basically just tell you have no routes. Yeah. Next is zones, I. Now, as you can see, when I hit I, all these things over here showed up. If I hit escape, they're gone again. Now, there's a lot of different zones. After you set it up, you can come over to it, and you can set it to something. So, right now, this is a pasture. Over here is a meeting area. You can just basically assign areas something without physically putting something down, essentially. So you can set a hospital, a pit, water source, a fishing area, that kind of a thing. So very useful for setting up maybe a dumping area or things like that. So useful. You'll probably most likely be making a lot of meeting areas, possibly a dumping area, pen and pasture for your animals so that that's kind of where they stay. That kind of thing. Next is HotKeys. I find this one useful. So if I hit F1, it comes to my front entrance of my fortress, essentially. Not exact. but it's a little off, which is fine. If I hit F2, it comes down to this part of my mine, kind of cavern. And if I hit F3, it comes all the way down to here where some bad juju is happening. And I don't like this area, and I don't want to talk about it. But you can set these hotkeys to kind of fast travel to different Z levels of the map. And I'll show you how to jump around the Z levels here more towards the end of the video. Essentially, you have different Z levels that you can go into, and this just allows you to fast travel to different areas Z levels. So if you hit capital H, you can basically pick an area, select which hotkey you want to use, and assign where you're currently looking to that hotkey, and then you can jump around. Very useful. Next is K/look, which is also extremely useful. This will give you individual information about something you have highlighted. So you hit K and you get your little X, and you can come over here and say, oh, hey, I didn't know what this was. This is a hive. What's this little yellow thing? Oh, okay, that's a honeybee worker, and you'll see it over here on the right. Basically, it just gives you some more info about what's there on what you selected. And you can come down here and you can, like, forbid items, dump it, follow it. Like, you can follow an individual dwarf on what they're doing if you're trying to figure out what they're doing, or an animal, or things like that. So it's very useful for identifying things on the map, especially if you're playing with vanilla graphics. This is obviously a graphics pack. I enjoy it, but vanilla is also fun. I started out on vanilla graphics for like the first 2 or 3 years I was playing this game. Next, you have your central escape key. Now, to get out of any of these menus, escape is always your back button, essentially. But you can hit back again even when you're not in a menu, and you get your main menu of saving the game, abandoning the fortress, different things like that. Next is depot access. Now, this thing right here is a depot, which you'll use for trading, and you can see whether a wagon can get to it or even someone by horse. Now, this is a very, very bad area for depot access because of all these boulders that I have. So if I hit Shift D, as you can see, I have 0 wagon access pretty much to my depot. You get a little legend over here that explains what's on here. So this depot is pretty much inaccessible. This one is accessible by like horse, but not really by wagon. As you can see, there's not much wagon deal access here. As you can see, when you hit arrow once, I want to explain this, you only move one. If you hold shift and then move, you jump a little further, which can help when you're trying to move around the map while having something selected, like your K or something like that. But that's essentially what this depot access does. It can be useful. Next, you have your space and your period. So you hit space and it resumes your game. Everybody starts moving around like normal. But this game works in what are called, and or at least what I've heard called, and what I like to call ticks of time. And a tick goes a certain amount of time, and a certain amount of events can happen within a tick. And sometimes you only want to move one tick at a time, or one step at a time. And so you hit period. So you hit period, one step of motion has happened, another tick, another motion has happened, and as you start pressing it, things continue to kind of move. That's nice when you have like some high tense moments of like, let's say like a giant ogre is bashing in your fortress wall, or someone's gone insane and starting a punch fight with your other dwarves, and you want to see what's happening kind of step by step, rather than hitting spacebar, unpause, pause really fast, which can go through several ticks. You can just take one step at a time and kind of assess things as things happen, which can be really useful for those kind of tense moments. Other than that, let's talk about Z levels. You pretty much hit shift, and then you'll hit period and comma, which with the shift makes the 2 carrots. You got your left carrot, right carrot. That's what I call them. I don't know what their official name is. But essentially, right carrot is going down a Z level, left carrot is going up a Z level. And so you can come down and you can like look at the river, go down. If we come up to here, I got a mine shaft, so you can come down the Z levels and kind of go down your mine shaft. If you come back up, you can go up the side of your mountain as the cliffs go up. Some bad things have happened there. I don't want to talk about it. But that's essentially how you change Z levels. So you can have all this stuff over here. You can go down a Z level, and you can have your bedrooms. You can go up Z levels. My start of my offices, things like that. That's what these Z levels are and do. And I can go more into detail if you want about stuff like that. Just let me know in the comments below. I probably will in some fashion eventually. But as far as I am currently remembering, those are all of the main keys and hotkeys of this game. Please let me know in the comment section if I did forget one, or if I didn't explain one well enough. And if you are watching, please check out the comment section, because we will probably elaborate further if I did mess up something in there. So you may want to check that out to get a little more information in case I do good at this. You never know. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. I am going to try to keep these tutorial series going and starting out with more of beginner guides when you're kind of first getting started kind of deals, and then eventually moving into more advanced things like setting up your military and like training routines and stuff like that. So let me know if there's something you want to see first in the comment section below, and I will do my best to work on that subject first and trying to get that video out before any others. And other than that, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.